Hi, I'm Gohar Vardanyan, and this is the Guitar Etude series. Today we have a short study by Mauro Giuliani. It's from his studios Op.1, Part 3, example number 4. The reason I chose this little study is because it's not very often you find an etude that is devoted entirely to grace notes. In this case, every single note that you play is ornamented with an ascending grace note. What that means is that you're going to pluck the dissonant note, the note that doesn't belong in the key, and you're going to resolve it by hammering on in the left hand, going upwards. Essentially what you're playing is this. So a very simple melody, but with the grace notes it sounds more upbeat and more fun, and it's definitely more difficult to play. It's a good way to practice grace notes in succession because it's not, usually when you find that in a piece, it's just that one that you have to do, and you never have to do more than one in a row. And this would be a good way to practice them so that you have more control over them, and it sounds a bit more interesting than just drilling a repetition of the same one over and over again. The key for playing grace notes is to be very relaxed because they are actually very fast. Even if you play this piece at a very slow pace, the grace note itself is going to be quick. So it doesn't really matter the speed that you're playing. You're not going to slow down the actual grace note, because then they won't be grace notes. They will be slow enough where they could actually just add to the rhythm itself. So, and it wouldn't be the purpose of the piece. So even if you're playing very slowly, which I would recommend you do, try to see how fast you can make the grace note. And then, because you're playing slowly, you will have time to relax in between each eighth note so that you can reset and do it again. Give yourself adequate time to relax your hand and to learn what that feels like, and you do too fast too early, you will end up finally kind of freezing up in the left hand because tension will build from being unprepared and having to play a bunch of grace notes in a row, and then you will just freeze up and you won't be able to move your fingers very fast anymore. Anytime you're playing something fast, your hands actually have to be very relaxed because it's for the speed. Even though it takes some power to hit the string, if your hand has any tension in it, you won't be able to move your finger quickly because it'll be frozen. So you really have to make sure that once you play it, you relax it so you can do it again. And the speed doesn't matter. Even if I played it here, the grace note is going to be quick, and that's what you will be practicing. Now, a question might arise whether to play the grace notes on the beat or before the beat. And I did a video on ornaments for strings by mail. I'll link it down in the description box where I go into more detail. But essentially what I read was that if the grace note, the tiny little note, has a slash through it, that means that you're going to play it before the beat and you're going to resolve onto the beat. So this note is right before the beat and you resolve into the beat. And if the grace note does not have any slash through it, it's just the tiny little note without any lines through it, then you play it on the beat, kind of put more emphasis and more weight on the grace note, and you resolve after the beat. In this case, all of these grace notes have slashes through them. So they're supposed to be played before the beat. However, when you really put it into practice, in this case, you have bass notes that you're going to play. Every third one has a bass. It's on the first beat and the fourth beat in a 6/8 time. So when you have these basses, they sort of overtake the rhythm. You want the bass to be on the beat, otherwise it'll sound very unsettling. So what happens essentially is you end up playing the grace note right on the beat, but you're going to resolve it and do the hammer on so quickly afterwards that it won't feel like you're taking extra time on that grace note. So when you're playing this on a beat, the resolution comes immediately after the beat. But because I'm not taking extra time, it still feels like I'm playing everything in time. That's probably the more tricky part to do it with the rhythm, because you are playing two notes in the time of one, so only one of them can really be on the beat and the next one will be just a little bit delayed. But if you practice it with a metronome to kind of hold you back and not allow you to rush, you will learn what that feels like to play the note a little bit off beat, but not be tempted to rush the next note and to play it early to kind of catch up. And that's important, because if you play this a few times, you'll notice that you're increasingly getting faster because the grace notes have that tendency to propel you forward. So I hope this is helpful. Key things to take away is to make sure your left hand is really relaxed in between the grace notes. Keep the timing and try to make them as quick and as relaxed as possible. And the next one is actually the opposite of these. So these were all ascending grace notes. The next example is with descending grace notes, which I will do in a couple of weeks. So thank you very much for watching.